YouTube. So today I'm going to talk about intermittent fasting, and not as a just a talking point, but as a life experience that I've been going through for a while now, and I've done my own personal research. And I found that is the only way to reset the body and make it perform and and make it start burning fat more efficiently. So, a little brief history. I am in my early 30s, and I've suffered with hypertension since I was in my late teens, 18, 19 years old. And all of my adult life, I've always been a larger guy, which is always encouraged, and especially culturally. When you're a larger guy, it's like, oh, you're a big guy, it's not nothing that's frowned upon. But when you have a good relationship with your doctor and you go regularly and you're being told that, hey, kid, you have high blood pressure, and if you keep going the route that you're going to have a stroke and you will die. You tend to like block out all of the compliments and start to think more morbidly, I might die. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna have a stroke, and the stress of that on a young person, just with no real information on how to correct it, is very devastating. And then you come from a culture and a family where eating is when you all get together. Eating is what you do to celebrate. Eating is what you do, most of the time. It's kind of hard to break that and start with a healthy, lifestyle. So for most of my 20s, my weight has been a constant thing that has held me back from a lot of opportunities. I've fluctuated, but constantly gotten heavier and heavier and heavier, but fluctuated through the 300s, from 310 all the way up to almost 50. When I graduated high school, I was almost wearing a size 50 waist pants, and nobody was telling me, yo, dude, you're huge. It was all wonderful things, and you always have your grandmother who will see you and be like, oh, baby, you look like you're losing weight. Where am I losing weight? In my eyeball? I mean, if you're a heavy person and somebody tells you you're losing weight, and goddamn well, when you got dressed in the morning, your belly unfurled itself and flopped down. It's like, you almost hate that person. It's like, why are you lying to me? You're not helping my confidence, So, yeah, I've struggled with that. Now, eventually, thank God, gotten over all of that. But getting over it is one thing. Coming up with a plan to be most successful was another, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. So I've tried everything, and you talk to any overweight person, I'm pretty sure they've tried every diet. The Atkins diet, the paleo diet, the blood type diet, the this diet, the don't eat carb diet, the eat low fat diet, the only drinking water diet, to taking cabbage diet, only eating cabbage soup diet, to only eating when it's sunny outside diet. Look, I'm not kidding. I've tried them all. I've even had moments where I thought, well, maybe being bulimic was an option. Maybe throwing up after I eat. And I'd laugh because it's not funny, but you get to the point of desperation. You literally are looking for any way out of being trapped in this large frame that feels like it's holding you back. And so you try it all. You even try starvation, where you say, I'm not going to eat nothing. And people would associate starvation with intermittent fasting, which is what I'm going to talk about, but it's totally different. Starvation is depriving the body of all nutrition for no set amount of time, just not eating anything, which completely shuts down your metabolism and sends your body into starvation mode, which holds on to weight, which is not healthy. And anytime you go back to eating, you'll gain the weight right back. So that's not what I'm here to talk about. But yeah, you ask any big person now, they'll should honestly tell you that they've tried it all, they've heard it all, and most things don't work because they're not sustainable. Our society and the foods that we eat and the environments that we put ourselves in encourage overeating or eating just because, and that's not realistic, especially for certain people. Some people, they're blessed with metabolisms and a willpower and to be in environments and not be affected. But most of us, majority of us, are affected by it, and it's visible. Most people have a belly and they're overweight and they suffer from some form of disease or hypertension or high blood pressure or high blood pressure is hypertension, but diabetes and something, and like gout, and which used to be called the poor man's disease. But everybody's eating meat every day. Everybody has access to, these foods, so people are getting sick at alarming rates because everybody's eating these rich diets and not really burning them off or not really processing them correctly. So I don't want to keep going on about that because I'm not a nutritionist, but I am a human being who has experienced weight gain and weight loss successes, but have fallen right back into the trap, and not been able to maintain any level of success with weight loss. So, as I said, when I graduated from high school, I was I don't know, high 300s, 343, maybe 345 pounds, 340 pounds of weight. I was large, but I carried it well, and that was always the crutch because you felt like, I look good in my clothes. It's not that bad, but the weight obviously was taking a toll on my body and hurting me from the inside out. So eventually I decided to start taking blood pressure medication because I didn't want to drop dead of a stroke. I had a whole life to live. So I gave in and I started taking Diovan, and I think that's the first one they start you on, Diovan, which for me didn't work. And then it went to amlodipine, and then spironolactone, and then a combination of two, and then one of them made my breath stink. One of them made me impotent. It was I'm a young man. I should not be dealing with this, But I eventually got a cocktail of prescriptions that have the least amount of side effects and the most amount of benefit as far as keeping my blood pressure regulated. But it's in combination with a good diet, because I tell you, when I first started, it was still struggling it just wouldn't break. It would not come down. It would just maintain this high level, but eventually with diet and exercise, it eventually, now maintains at a good level. And I've gone even further now with the intermittent fasting. So I'll get to that in a minute. I had a tragedy in my life. Well, 2014, I think it was 2013, I decided to stop eating meat. And I did. And I haven't had meat since. I've dabbled with being a pescatarian and eating seafood, but as far as eating land mammals, eat animals, no, I don't. But I still would occasionally have dairy, cheese, and ice cream and stuff like that, which would make me physically ill. But I allowed myself to eat these things because I enjoyed them, and I wasn't willing to give up everything that I enjoyed. Um, but I would never go back to eating meat. And I thought, well, because I've conquered that, then I'm doing okay. But the truth was that I was doing more damage to myself with eating something that my body was obviously allergic to. So the dairy was keeping my intestines and my GI tract inflamed and preventing me from properly properly metabolizing my food. So I always felt uncomfortable after eating. Anything that had a milk or whey or anything dairy related in it would leave me feeling completely upset in my system and not allowing me to properly digest my food. This went on for years. In those years, I was able to lose weight through calorie restrictions and things like that. And around 2014, I got down to, I would say, the low 300s. But it literally only lasted for a year. 2015, I suffered a tragic loss in my family, which I thought was a permission to just say F it. And I said F it. And I literally, ate my way back up to those numbers where I ran from. So I was around the 330s and 333. I was 333 forever. And it's like, what? Like, it's like, what is going on? Like my body would not go any lower or higher. It just stayed consistently there, But I was going through a lot of adjustment and grieving, so I didn't really even care. I stopped getting on the scale. I stopped looking in the mirror. I stopped, focusing on what I look like, and I just allowed myself to creep back up into larger clothes and a more unhealthy lifestyle. Never went back to eating meat, but pizza was my friend, and that went on to 2015, 2016, 2017, till I was like depressed and not suicidal, because I was always checking in to make sure that it never went to that point. But I got to the point where I was having conversations with myself, and they were dead ends as far as like finding joy or happiness. And I wasn't sure if it was just me or if or where was these things stemming from. I know I had went through something tragic, but I knew that I also wanted to be happy. So I didn't know how to turn the switch on to being happier. And so, but I also knew I was smart enough and intelligent to know that if I ate a salad, I was happier than when I ate pizza. Pizza, although gave me the sense of contentment, which was false, it also triggered negative emotions in me. This is nothing that you're probably going to believe if you've never experienced it. But if you eat high calorie processed foods, it definitely triggers an emotional change in you. And if you're already struggling with emotional things and then you eat these types of foods, it encourages it. It makes it worse. It makes it that much worse. And I believe that sugar and salt are worser drugs, if that's not a word, than crack and heroin. Although crack and heroin are something that we look down upon because those are considered street drugs, sugar and salt, which is in everything, is so addictive and so, I guess destructive, like they really do more damage over a mass of people, and we get away with it because we have to eat meals, but at the end of the day, those things do more damage, in my opinion. So, knowing that after I ate those foods, I felt a change in me, I started to tap into realizing that I needed to change my diet, and make more conscious decisions on what I ate and what I put into my body. So I did that, and that worked, but I still was maintaining this high number of weight. I got down to 319, and I was there for over 2 years, and it never would go anywhere further. But I realized that I was subconsciously compensating calories with the good foods. So I had replaced the bad foods with the good foods, but I was still maintaining this high number caloric intake, which was maintaining this weight. And you can do that subconsciously. You can fool yourself into believing that you're doing something right and healthy, but be eating in excess, eating way more than the body actually needs to survive. And so 2017, I went on my first international trip, and I was able to go into a village and see that people were eating literally right off a tree, right out the ground, right off the bush, right out the ocean, and noticing that food was making my body respond differently. The lack of processed ingredients was making me come alive, and my brain was thinking more clearly. That brief time that I was there opened my eyes to the possibility of healing myself through food. But it was a really brief trip. 2018, this year, I went for over 25 days, which was a much more significant trip, and it left a much bigger impression, on me. In eating differently for almost a month, allow my body to completely detox of all things sugar and salt and processed foods. And when I came back with a willpower and an enlightenment on the direction I wanted to take. And I did that, but I was instantly discouraged because I thought when I came back I was going to be this, slim version of myself, but I wasn't. I was 325. I knew maybe even up to 7 pounds of that could have been all fluid from the long travel, the 8 planes in 25 days, and airport food and altitude changing, so I knew I was retaining a level of fluid. So, but I thought that I had trimmed up a little bit more than that, but that was the deception, I thought that trip was going to change my life, and it did in a different way. It changed my life mentally, but physically it was going to take as much time as it did to get to where I was, to change from where I was. So I had to brace myself for the long haul and not think it was just a race, but a marathon. So here we are, intermittent fasting. Here we are to the present day. I came home and I was at 324, and I wasn't disgusted at this point, but I was determined. I was determined to take whatever physical state I was in and transform it into where I ultimately wanted to be. And how did I plan on doing that? I learned there that intermittent fasting, although I knew this already, I just didn't think I was strong enough to maintain it. I knew that intermittent fasting was an approach to resetting the body and make it work more efficiently. So I'm gonna speed this up. So it's really simple. If you can get to 24 hours, I think it is, a day without eating, you skip a day, I think you're winning. But I don't think that's sustainable. Definitely not for me. I cannot go a whole day without eating. I can, but can you do that for the rest of your life? The answer is no. And I'm done with setting myself up for failure. So here's a simple simple, very simple, something that you can do for the entirety of your life, and it will bring you the most benefits. It's called the don't eat before 10 a.m. and don't eat after 6 p.m. fast. That gives you 16 hours for your body to reset in itself, and that's plenty of time. I've done that since September the 12th up until now, and I've lost a total of 25 pounds. Now, that is nothing to call in a parade for, because I'm so overweight that I have to continue it before I can actually start to celebrate. And that's fine, because at this point, holiday times are coming up. I should start feeling myself feel like, I don't know if I can continue to do this, but I feel more encouraged than ever before. Now, it's going to be constant encouragement that I'm going to need to keep feeling that way, but this is something that I can sustain. So, intermittent fasting, it's I'm going to read something. I'm going to call it the 16 and 10. The 16 and 10 method involves fasting every day for 16 hours and restricting your daily eating window to 8 to 10 hours. Within the eating window, you can fit into 2 to 3 or meals. It says 2 to 3, but I only do 2. I do one larger meal at 10, and then I do something small at 5. And it says you can drink any liquids after that. I don't drink anything after 6 other than water. It says you can drink any type of sugar-free juice or coffee unsweetened, as long as it doesn't have calories in it. Any no caloric beverage. And I've done that for this long, and I've consistently lost weight. But that's not the kicker. The thing that has been the kicker is my blood pressure has been perfect. And I want to go into my doctor now with having done something for over a month now and have an assessment and see where things are, have a blood test. And